Hello, this is the RPG Crawler, and welcome to another product review. This time I'm taking a long overdue look at a little thing called Egrastea Reborn, a hex crawl adventure for the Broken Shores system, which I covered sometime a while back. Developed by Black Oath Entertainment, they were kind enough to send me a review copy of it. Available in both PDF and print-on-demand format from DriveThruRPG, Egrastea Reborn is a sandbox adventure expansion for Broken Shores. It can be played either solo or with a group, with or without a GM, and includes optional rules, a new spell rarity system, a number of new spells, a detailed description of one of the houses, as well as new items, gear, NPCs, enemies, and a detailed hex crawl involved. It is divided into three major sections: the new rules, the House of Egrastea, which details the noble house involved with the adventure, as well as exploring Armestus. It begins with a set of new conditions that can be inflicted by various events or various creatures within, as well as their effects. An alternate combat system is designed to basically streamline the core combat rules system a little bit, making it a little bit less tedious in terms of actual resolution. There is a proper defensive move table included, as well as an example to use the new system. Spell rarity is discussed next. There are three new spell rarities to consider when either finding or learning a new spell. There is common, uncommon, and rare, each with its own table. Each of these tables lists currently existing spells as well as new spells, so you know where they stand. By rarity, a note is given that new player characters can really only choose spells from the common spells, which makes sense. Those are the ones that are relatively well known. This is followed by new spells introduced in Egrastea Reborn. Some of these are relatively straightforward, like Animal Friendship, Animate Dead, Air Bubble, that sort of thing, but certain ones offer interesting effects, like Paralysis, Armor Boosting, and so forth. They are listed with a name, a cost, a range, whether they can be resisted, their duration, a general effect, and then a descriptive passage. The second major section of this adventure is the House of Egrastea. The House of Egrastea covers a faction that details the last surviving lineage of kings that descended from the kings of Egrastea. It gives their background along with what forces and internal struggles they are currently dealing with. It describes how there is some renewed hope of creating a new kingdom now that the waters of the world are receding, and that something resembling their ancient capital has risen from the waves. The adventurer is introduced to the House of Egrastea by them requesting aid from outsiders to help explore the island. There's a quick table that allows ways that the PCs could hear about this attempt, various things they can do to increase or decrease their standing within the house, as well as what rewards they can expect at certain levels of standing. This includes access to items available from the Egrastean Quartermaster, which are detailed in a table thereafter, and include things like armor, various magical items, and even a legendary spell. A hex map of the island of Armestus and the ruins upon it is given before the section exploring Armestus begins. This is the bulk of the adventure and covers the hex crawl on the island itself. There's a basic guideline on how to run it, bypassing the initial terrain generation of the core game, and stating that the tables of events in the core book should be skipped in preference for things detailed in this adventure. Relevant hexes are then listed. Hex 1 includes the base camp, but after this each hex details the name of the hex, what terrain it's counted as well as any encounters or NPCs within it. This can include descriptions on the overall hex itself, special items or effects that take place within it, and so on. This is very similar to a keyed adventure or any other hex crawl for any other system. What enemies are detailed, they are detailed in a sidebar directly in the adventure text itself. While these hexes start out relatively sparse, but interesting nonetheless, as the adventure increases, it really paints the scene of an increasingly complex city ruins and includes some relatively interesting and unique encounters and events. After these hexes are described, the adventure pretty much concludes. Further issues are described. It can make for a rather brief but interesting hex crawl that may differ from the usual Broken Shores randomly generated island, simply in the uniqueness of the hexes involved. So, what do I think about Egrastea Reborn? Well, for a hex crawl adventure, it gets the job done. I do like the alternate combat system. The rules can change up the effects of a solo crawl as you get into it. If you're getting bored with the usual back and forth of the core system, I can understand why you would want to use that even in a normal course of a game. The new spell rarity system and the new spells themselves are just about worth getting this just by themselves. Like if for nothing else, the new spells make it worthwhile. Hexcrawl put aside, I do wish that some of the new monsters were set up in their own bestiary at the end, but they're easy enough to pick out for use in your own adventure design as well. I think it does end a little bit abruptly, but considering the core system, that's not really a detraction. I mean, it's more geared towards exploration and survival in the first place, if you've ever played the core system, so having an adventure just end, well, oh, you've explored it all, that's fine with me. All in all, while not a necessary addition to anyone who plays Broken Shores, I think it is rather well worth the money that it costs. If not for the adventure itself, then at least for the brief additional material. I will wrap it up here. That's not saying that the adventure is bad, by far from it. It's a pretty fun little crawl, but the rules, I think, stand upon themselves and could bear merit just as their own release. Anyway, yeah, I am going to wrap it up here, and I know this was a rather brief one, but the overall adventure is rather brief and straightforward in and of itself. Honestly, it should not have taken me this long to look through it. I've just been incredibly busy, and I'm now working on my backlog. I could be doing a review a week for the rest of the year, and honestly, I'm not promising that, because there's no way I can do that, but I've got enough material to do that. Anyway, this has been the RPG Crawler with my look at Egrastea Reborn. As always, I will put a link below where you can pick it up. If you like what you've seen, remember to leave a like, comment, get feedback, and subscribe for more RPG content. Until next time, take care and goodbye. And if you are still watching, I would like to take the opportunity to thank my supporters, the top tiers of which are listed on the screen, without whose support I would not have been able to offer the variety of content that I have on this channel throughout the years. If you're feeling particularly generous and would like to join them, you can support the channel. There are a variety of options to do so. I have a Patreon, a Subscribestar, as well as channel memberships enabled. If you are not in a position to contribute, simply leaving a like, a comment, or sharing my videos are all wonderful ways to help the channel grow without spending a dime, and are all greatly appreciated.